Fox Weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross joins us now with the update. And again, we just learned this is now a tropical depression, Bryan. One of the questions that I have for you is the new track came out. What would influence this to perhaps lean toward the left or the right side of the track? Because I think that's certainly something that we're monitoring as well.
Yeah, that's the big question for the southeast U.S. I mean, there are going to be effects from this storm in the Carolinas, Georgia, up to Virginia at the very least. But exactly the extent of the effects and whether you're going to have a direct landfalling hurricane or not is a very open question. And we have two big systems that are going to be vying, maybe three actually, vying for influence on the steering when we get to the early to middle part of next week. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But NOAA hurricane hunters have been out there investigating just north of the coast of Cuba, and they found enough of a circulation in there that the National Hurricane Center went ahead and designated this a tropical depression. That's what's required to get enough of full circulation, not just kind of half a circulation, which is what we've had. 35-mile-an-hour winds is the estimate, and the pressure they measured out there at 1,005 millibars, moving to the northwest at 6 miles an hour. So slow-moving system there moving through the Bahamas. Here, when we look at the close-up, this is the visible, more like a photograph from space. It's right up in there that they found the circulation. And you see it's quite robust here. This is a fairly large system, and it's been a very robust disturbance. It's been these mountainous islands down here that have held it back so far. It's moving into relatively conducive conditions for strengthening. So we'll see what happens here as it moves north. We expect it to just slowly intensify and organize as it goes. So here's the forecast from the Hurricane Center, thinking that it will be a tropical storm by tomorrow morning, maybe even later today. It just has to get farther away from land down there. And 50-mile-an-hour winds near the northwestern Bahamas, including Abaco, Nassau, and Grand Bahama Island. So just be ready for a tropical storm. The folks there are very, in their mind is Hurricane Dorian. And this is not a Hurricane Dorian situation. There is no risk of it being a Hurricane Dorian situation. So I want everybody to be calm about that. But use good sense when you have very stormy weather moving through, slowly moving through, and that's going to be Sunday. You also have the flooding potential there in the Bahamas. Then it moves north. The forecast is for it to approach hurricane strength here as it's passing central Florida. So they have a tropical storm watch up for the Treasure Coast, the Space Coast, and on up to Daytona Beach for this part, just because the system, if it were to take the left side of the cone, could come close and could put tropical storm force winds there. I'll show you. It's more has to do with the fact that the winds will be onshore there as it's moving by in the coastline. And it's just too far in advance to put up any alerts farther north, but there almost certainly will be. But look at the forecast here. So it's forecast to be a hurricane. Here we are Tuesday overnight. When it says Tuesday morning here, actually it means Tuesday morning, nominally 8 a.m. in this region here, and then drifting this way in some fashion, maybe weakening some, but exactly where and how and at what speed is very, very open to all possibilities. All right, let's look and see what the players are here. So we're going to look at that midday Tuesday time frame when we're in this kind of critical time with this thing. Excuse me. So here we have the hurricane offshore. This is Hurricane Humberto, which is going to be a strong hurricane. And here we have potential Hurricane Imelda near the coast. Okay, so what's going to happen here? We have, sorry about my voice here. I'm really okay, just a little, a little off here this morning. So we have this low pressure system here that's going to want to try. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Going to try and pull it ashore. We also have this high here that's driving things this way. But the big player that's coming up is this dip in the jet stream up here. So as this dip in the jet stream comes on down here, that's going to grab the big hurricane Umberto that's offshore and take it on out to sea. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We're going to see that here when we look at the moisture related to these systems and how they're going to interact, because watch how close these two things come to each other. So here they're far enough apart that you don't have any significant interaction here. The influence here is from that low pressure system up here, and it's already today, this is today now, already causing rain, as you know, there in the southeast. And unfortunately, the Carolinas up into Virginia, up in the lower mid-Atlantic, already getting saturated in advance of this. Tropical moisture is feeding in there, and it's being supported by that low there offshore. Okay, watch as we go now. You're going to look up here in the upper left, see, and we're going to go day by day. And watch what happens. Look, the hurricane out here, Umberto, which may get to Category 5, by the way, or here over the weekend, is getting closer and closer. So as the hurricane gets stronger, dominates more of the western part of the Atlantic Ocean, its influence will eventually have increase, I guess is the best thing, on Imelda. So there's Imelda tomorrow over the northern Bahamas. And notice the moisture here from Imelda is starting to push right to the coast tomorrow. So the low that was up here, its influence is decreasing tomorrow, and now we get the tropical push of moisture coming ahead of the storm. And here it comes. Look at it moving in here to the low country in the Piedmont of North Carolina as we get in tomorrow. And now we're going to get tropical rain, and we get this closer and closer distance here, and here we are on Monday. And notice the onshore winds here on Monday there in the Central Florida coast, Treasure Coast, Space Coast, on along there, and those onshore winds are right at the beaches. I expect the winds will be quite gusty, almost certainly gusting over tropical storm strength, maybe sustained over tropical storm strength. Tropical storm watch means the possibility of winds over tropical storm strength. And then watch as we go to Tuesday. Here it comes. Now we have moisture pushing in here and a Category 1 hurricane. And how much influence does this bigger storm, now it's growing in size, going to have? It wants to hold the storm back this way. And the low over here was trying to pull it up this way. That's why it's forecast to stall in this area here. But remember that big dip in the jet stream? That's eventually going to yank on it, and just a real knife's edge which exactly way it goes. So here's how the models resolve this, and here's the GFS. And then when we look at the ensembles, it's the possibilities by adjusting exactly what the starting point is, how different it could be. And look, we have a number going this way. We have a number stalling right in here. This is just through Tuesday here. And then we have a number actually coming ashore. Let's add the European on there, and then you see same idea. Some turn it very quickly as if that dip in the jet stream grabs it right away. And then a number come up onshore. So it's very much a fork in the road. Now the Google DeepMind AI model, similar sort of thing, up and over, a hard right at some point Monday into Tuesday, but a number, bring it onshore. So we have to be ready for a landfalling hurricane, but in any case, we certainly have to be ready for very heavy rain. Here's our tropical threat graphic, shows you the same idea,
and Bryan,
two possibilities, one here and one there.
And Bryan, would you say that when it comes to impacts to the possible Carolina coastline, that really rain, freshwater rain, is that the biggest impact as of this point?
Well, that's the most certain impact. If it goes right up to the coast and stalls, you're going to get storm surge anyway. It doesn't have to come ashore because it's going to be pushing the water at the coast. So in the Carolinas, they can be ready for everything here, but certainly freshwater flooding, which has been a traditional very, very dangerous hazard throughout the Carolinas, obviously, including Helene last year, but obviously with Florence and other storms along in the low country, in the Midlands, and up into the Piedmont. It's hilly country, so heavy, persistent rain is very dangerous. All that water has to come down to the coast. So certainly planning for that is very important, at the very least.
Right. Well, Bryan, we always really appreciate your insight, and we're going to be keeping a very close eye on this in the next few hours. Fox Weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross, thanks for joining us again this morning.